Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Patholkis, and this is Mr. Robot, Season 4, Episode 7, Proxy Authentication Required. Um, I think I speak for all of us when I say, holy fucking shit. Great gobs of goose shit. That was one hell of an episode. I remember reading back a while ago, Sam Ishmael said he was going to throw a curveball in near the end of the final season, and this was the curveball. Um, wow, that's all I can say. Let me take care of a little bit of business here for a second. If you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. Also, if you want to know what I'm going to be on next, you can hit the little bell down below there too. The bell will give you a 50-50 chance of actually being notified when I'm actually on, but who knows? It's YouTube. If you want to know when I'm going to be on, take a look at my website, suspendedfanimation.com. It's got my schedule up there. I also have it mirrored on my Facebook page. There's also a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and talk amongst yourselves. And also, I have a Twitter and Instagram, and I have a Patreon page, but I don't have a tier set up as of yet. They will be tiers at the end of this year, beginning of next year. So, spoiler alert. I am going to spoil the shit out of this episode. If you have not watched the episode, go and fucking watch it. Then come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you again, Viking Bitch, for the new paddle. Yeah, I agree with you, Ray Death Ray. That curveball was more like a fucking bowling ball. It was kind of like dropped over an overpass and just over a freeway without any regards to where the fuck it was going to hit, because that was huge. All right. If you haven't seen me before, I do a recap of the show, and then I do a review afterwards. So let's get through the recap as fast as we can and just talk about all this stuff. I do the recap in order to work this stuff out in my head. I actually think about it as I'm doing it. I just watched it just like you guys did. So I need some time to process it, and this is the way I process it. So we have Elliot in the trunk of the car, of course, and it comes to a stop, and he's dragged out of the trunk of the car. And the way this is shot, by the way, this episode, there is a film school technique, and I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's almost shot like a stage play in the way they did it. And there is a certain term for it. I can't remember what it is. I've been very far long removed from any kind of film classes, so I don't remember what it is. But yes, you do break it up into acts like this, and you do keep it on one stage, if you will. Quentin Tarantino is actually pretty famous for doing that. So that's what Sam Esmail is doing in this as well. We see Vera smoking meth, and he's kind of emotional in front of Elliot because, as he says, Elliot is a hero to him. And Mr. Robot, in the meantime, is just going around going, okay, we're on the third floor of a walk up. And he's laying out basically when the hell they can get out of this thing, and how they need to actually think about it. And Elliot's like, you know what, we need to find out if Carista's still alive first. And Mr. Robot's like, no, fuck that. We got other stuff we need to do. Let's get the hell out of here. And Vera's like, hey, you haven't spoken in a minute, after they've released the gag from his mouth. What's going on? We haven't talked for a little while. And Elliot says, what do you want me here for? Or what am I here for? You know what? You were looking for me 2 months ago and you disappeared. Why now? And Vera, starts going off about some shit, and Elliot comes back and goes, cut the bullshit. Tell me why I'm here. And then Vera just goes off on going back to the Dominican Republic, and he had a dream to own the island. And once 5/9 hit, he was able to do that in 87 days. He basically took over the island. He said on the 88th day, he was bored. And so a buddy of his brought in a shaman who had him drink up this pink shit, as he said, that was filled with blood and breast milk and some other stuff as well. And he said, I'm not going to lie to you. I shit myself. And then I puked. Then I shit myself and puked. It kind of went back and forth till all the poison was out. And, he says that he had a revelation that the shaman said that he needs to return home. And he goes, but I am home. And he goes, no, home back to where you came from. And, he's like, New York City is where you need to come back to. And he needs to reconcile with the man who would be his partner. And that's why he's back, for Elliot to help him take over New York City. In the meantime, we've seen Krista in the next room. She's tied up and she's crying, of course. And, Vera asks Elliot, he goes, "What do you think of this idea?" And Elliot's like, "Where's Krista?" And Vera, reminds him, he goes, "You remember when you asked that question last time, what happened?" And this is, of course, with Shayla, because Shayla was in the trunk of the car last time Elliot asked that kind of question. And Vera is cutting up some stuff with this knife. And he's like, if I don't remember correctly, this is my boy's knife, my brother's knife. And I think this is the knife that he did Shayla with. And basically just kind of taunting Elliot at this point. And then Elliot asks where Krista is again. And Vera just gets pissed off. And he goes, "Okay, you want a meet and greet? We'll have a meet and greet." And he grabs him and takes him. And then we go to black and we see it's Act 2. And Vera brings in Elliot to see Krista. And he asks her how she is, if she's okay. And he goes, "No, no, 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 no." He goes, "I'd show you who she will, that she was here so you can see her. Now I want an introduction." And he goes, "An introduction to who?" And Vera's like, "Mr. Robot." And Elliot's like, "Who the hell's Mr. Robot?" And Vera's pissed off again at this point, of course. And threatens Krista with rape and, to kill her and all this stuff. That's when Mr. Robot shows up and isn't taking any shit. And he's like, "You fucking loser," essentially is what he's telling Vera. And as he's getting in Vera's face, Peanut ends up taking out her gun and putting it to Mr. Robot's head and goes, "You need to sit the fuck down and back off." She goes, "You're not being so cool now with a gun in your head, are you?" And he turns and just, gets the gun right up against his forehead. And he says, "What do you think about this now?" He goes, "You think I'm scared now?" kind of thing. And Vera tells Peanut to back off and put the gun down. Yeah. And Mr. Robot tells Vera, "You know what? Vera," he goes, "What do you want? What do you want from me?" And Vera wants to know how Mr. Robot came about. And he goes, "What do you mean how I came about?" And, they're going back and forth about this. And he says, "I came about when assholes like you show up. When you come along, I make sure Elliot is okay." And Vera's like, "Oh, so you're the muscle." That's what's going on, right? And Vera wants to know more about how he started, how it happened. And Mr. Robot, of course, is pissed off at this point. He goes, "This isn't about me. This actually is about you and your credentials and why I should be here listening to you," kind of thing. And he goes, "You need to convince me why I should help you." And Vera says, he wants to own the island. He wants to own all the cops, all the drug pushers. They want to be pushing all his stuff, all the rapists, all this stuff. He's going on and on and on. And Mr. Robot goes, "Oh, so you want to get into real estate," is what he says. And Vera looks at him kind of blankly. He goes, "The city's one big credit card bill and you want to pay it." And he goes, "And that's fucking stupid," is what he tells him. And he basically says, it's not about it's not about the money, about how much money. It's about robbing the money itself. He goes, "You need to think bigger," essentially, at this point. And he goes, "And step one is always going to be letting Krista go." So Vera says, "Well, if Krista couldn't trust you, why should I?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's in her notes. She didn't trust you." And Elliot comes forward and goes, "You know what? I'll show you the plan. It's on my laptop. I'll give you more money than you know what to do with. And I've got all the bank statements in my bag." And Vera knows it's, Elliot that's come back. And he goes, "You need to put your dog on a leash." He goes, "He barks a lot, but he doesn't scare me. You scare me," is what he says. And at that point, I don't know if he was talking to Elliot or the third. There was something right there that just didn't click with me, but I was too kind of enthralled. I did write it in here. Is he more scared of Elliot or is he more scared of the third? Because Vera keeps mentioning another dark streak. He mentions it a couple of times in this episode. And I'm wondering if Vera has actually seen the third, as if he's met the third and knows who he is. So that's an interesting thing. We'll never know really at this point. So, um, yeah. So Act 3 comes around and Elliot pulls out his laptop and we see the dark army gun is inside the bag still. And Elliot shows Vera and Vera's like, oh shit. And he brings Peanut over and Peanut's looking at him and she says it's stadium money. And Elliot's like reaching out for his gun in the bag, and Vera tells Javi to come over and take a look at it. So Javi's looking over and he's like, "What the fuck, stadium money?" And he's like, "Yeah, that is stadium money. Holy shit!" That's when Elliot grabs the gun, brings it out, and he's pointing it at them. And Vera's like, "I don't think you have the balls, man." You know. And Elliot starts pulling the trigger, and there's nothing. And that's when Javi shows him that he's taking the bullets out of the gun. And Vera goes, okay, you want to play it this way? And he reloads the gun and he goes and grabs Krista and he puts the gun to her head. And he wants to know why he shouldn't just shoot her. And Elliot's like, I'll never work with you. I'll never work with you. He goes, no, it's not good enough. Why shouldn't I shoot her? He goes, because she's a good person. He goes, no, why shouldn't I shoot her? And he's got the gun to her head. And that's when Elliot finally says that she helps him. And Vera goes, oh, I understand. She's your shaman. He goes, I'm the wrong person asking the questions. That's what he says. And then we go into Act 4. This is when Vera sits them down in the other room and says, we're going to have a therapy session. And wants Krista to pick up where they left off. And outside, there's a storm raging, by the way, too, as all this is going on. And Elliot tells Krista that Vera just wants a show, to just, go on, ask me questions like you normally would. He just wants a show. And Krista said it doesn't work this way without a controlled environment. And Vera sends out Javi and Peanut. He goes, you guys need to leave. And she goes, that still doesn't work this way. With you here, he goes, tough. You're going to have to fucking deal with it. And she goes, I'm not going to do it. And Vera shoots, pulls off a round. And she's a little bit freaked out, of course, and Elliot's talking her back. And he goes, come on, let's just do this. We'll get through this. And he goes, why don't you ask me some questions? He goes, why don't you ask me about my mom's death? My mom just died recently. And she goes, well, how do you feel about that? He goes, well, honestly, I haven't thought about it that much. He goes, does that make me a bad person? He goes, it really kind of wrecked Darlene a bit, but me, not so much. And then they start talking about Vera just gets pissed off at this point. He goes, this is shit I already know. He goes, I want to know more about Mr. Robot's secret. And Elliot's like, what? And Chris is like, no. We're not going there. Those are my notes, my private notes. And Vera goes and grabs her notes and starts reading through them and saying, bringing up some incidents. And he goes, it's all tied to the window incident. It's all tied to the window incident, of which Elliot doesn't remember anything about. All he's got is secondhand knowledge from Darlene, what Darlene saw. Darlene told him everything that happened is that they were building a snowman. They went up to the room to go grab a camera. They heard their dad approaching. He put her in the closet to hide her, then grabbed a baseball bat, started swinging it around, busting shit up, and then he jumped out the window. And Vera's reading through this. He's reading through the notes more and more, and Mr. Robot's going, we don't want to talk about this thing. He goes, I can't protect you if this, if we keep going down this road kind of thing. And Krista asks if Mr. Robot was protecting him from something at that moment. Why was, what was going on? Why did Mr. Robot come out? Mr. Robot's been there since the beginning to protect him, is what he says. And what is this all about? Of course. Excuse me. I lost my place on my notes there for a second. And I need a little bit of water too, because damn, it's a little dry here. There we go. And why did why did he have such a strong reaction to when his father came into the room? And Elliot said maybe he was scared. And why was he scared of his father? And Elliot said, he was my friend. Why would I be scared of him? Of course. And Mr. Robot at that point goes, I can't protect you now. And he walks away. He fucking walks away. That's the last we see of Mr. Robot in this episode. Krista asks, why did his father ever hurt him? And did he hide Darlene in the closet to keep her safe? Why did he grab the bat to defend himself? And why did he escape the only way he knew how, out the window? Was he afraid his dad was going to ask him to do something he didn't want to do? And finally he says yes. And she goes, do you remember what he asked? And he says yes. And then she says, did your father sexually molest you? And he says yes. He remembers about it, and he breaks down at this point, which is a big, huge revelation, but also makes sense now at this point. When Elliot's father died, he has no reaction to it and just picks up his dad's jacket and walks out of the theater. So, yeah, I mean, holy shit. So we go to Act 5 at this point, and Vera is telling Elliot, he knows his pain. He's felt that pain before. He doesn't need to be scared anymore. And when he goes to touch Elliot, Elliot's like, get the fuck away from me. Don't touch me. And he goes to the next room and tells Vera to leave him alone. And Vera's still got the gun in his, in his waistband of his sweatpants there. And Vera says, you know what? You've purged all the poison and it's allowing you to become your true self. And Elliot's like, I don't know who the fuck I am. And he goes, that's because, you're gonna know now. You're gonna be able to find out now. And he goes, you just need to let out that pain. You've been keeping the pain in for so long. You need to let it out. And Elliot screams out in pain, of course. And he goes, yeah, that's what you need to do. And he screams out a couple more times. And Vera's telling him to let it out. And then Vera tells him he doesn't need to carry the pain alone. And Elliot blames Vera for doing this to him. He goes, you did this to me. And he goes, it needed to be done. You needed to find your true self, is what Vera keeps telling him. And he says, now that you know the truth, you can use it. And Vera even mentions that his own mom, he goes, he found out his own mom would pass him around when she'd go out to go and get drunk and smoke and all that kind of stuff. She'd pass him around to friends, quote unquote friends. And he had to get through that shit, as he puts it. And he tells Elliot, you become the storm and the rest of the world has to run for cover because that's what you need to do. And Elliot says he doesn't want to be alone anymore. And Vera says, you don't have to be, I'll be there. And then he looks at Elliot and says, I see you now. That goes back to the little bitch story that he was telling Krista last week. And then he goes, he has this gasp that he does. And we see that Krista has stabbed Vera in the back and he falls to the floor dead. And that's how we leave off the episode. And I was like, holy fuck. So does this mean we're not going to see Mr. Robot anymore at this point? Because now that it's been revealed that his dad was molesting him, which, by the way, was a theory that some people have posited a couple of seasons ago. And I didn't think anything of it, to tell you the truth. I thought maybe it was kind of possible at one point, and then I kind of dismissed it. But a lot of people had come up with that theory. And yes, the stabbing was very shocking. Pretty, there's a lot of shocking things in this episode. Kiki Girl says, I believe we saw the third altar tonight. Elliot was different with Vera before the revelation. Yeah, I agree with you, Kiki. Like I said, there was a thing where just before they started the therapy session where he says, I'm afraid of you. And I don't think he was talking to Elliot. I think he was talking to the third altar. I'm fairly sure that Vera knows he's met the third altar, of course, before. We know this. And yeah, there is, there's something there. I don't know what it is. And we're going to find out, I guess. All the Lolita references make sense now too. Yeah, exactly, Geocosmic. That it definitely does. There's just so many layers in this that now that it's all coming to light, you're like, oh yeah, and you can go back and actually watch this season or watch these seasons and kind of put all this stuff together now, like any good story. And it becomes a completely different story, watching it this way. Kiki Girl says, Elliot will need that third altar in order to survive now without Mr. Robot. He's gone for good. I don't know if he's gone for good or not, but Mr. Robot was the one that was driving a lot of this stuff too. Mr. Robot was the muscle, definitely. But the third, I don't know, the third altar, we don't know what he's got going. If he's the crazy one, I don't know. Was he the one that was swinging the bat around? We don't know for sure, what this was all about. I don't think Christian Slater is done, to tell you the truth. I think he's going to come back at some point. I think we'll see him again. Irene says that's why the show is so great. It's all a coherent whole. I know. It's you only see parts of it until they reveal it, and then you're like, okay, it's all there. It's just it doesn't make sense until you get a confirmation on something. The Cutter for Life says Elliot's fight against E Corp now means nothing. He did it to avenge his dad, at least partly. He also did it for Angela as well. So a little bit of both on that. Angela was the one that checked. I mean, granted, Angela gave up and sold out and then paid for it with her life. So he really is kind of doing it. You're right. He is doing it for nothing now, except maybe for Angela and her memory at this point, because what else has he got? Or his sister. So who's going to talk to us now without Mr. Robot? Exactly. Nominous. I agree with you. Yeah, this leaves a lot of things up in the air now. This is a gigantic curveball because we don't have Mr. Robot anymore. We have is Krista now going to be part of this group because she's now tied to Elliot? Definitely, because she's got a dead guy in her apartment now and 2 armed thugs standing outside. So the person who talks to us is the third personality mainly. Not all the time. Cutter for Life. Sometimes it was Mr. Robot talking to us because he knows that Elliot is no longer talking to us. And then there was one time that the third did talk to us directly. And that was a couple episodes ago. And that was kind of a weird. I noted that it was a different tone, the way things were said to us, and so that was definitely the third personality. And yes, I agree with you. Krista's not just she wasn't a badass. She's scared. She's fucking scared and needed to do what she needed to do, and she's gonna be pretty messed up on all of this. Irene says, I almost feel sorry for Vera. He did things the only way he knew how. It seems like all he knew was violence. Yeah, he was really, he wasn't long for this world. He was smoking a lot of meth, and he needed to go, quite honestly. Hey, Chris Whitting, maybe we'll get Elliot back. I don't know. I mean, Elliot's changed now, and that's the other thing too. It kind of brings up Elliot needs to go to this Deus meeting and do what he needs to do in order to get his plan working and to have this major revelation, this major mental revelation that kind of broke him. Actually, it did break him. And now he's got to go and first of all get out of this whole scrape because he's got the 2 armed thugs sitting outside with Krista and go and do what he needs to do in order to stop Deus. And White Rose. And White Rose still wants him because as White Rose has been putting it, he wants to show Elliot, or they want to show Elliot, that they're on the same side. How do you think Elliot's going to get away from Vera's goons? That's a good question. I don't know at this point. We've seen so much weird shit going on this season that and the gun is loaded now. That's true. The third altar, maybe. I agree. I agree. That's a possibility, Kiki. We could have the third altar just step in. The third altar is crazy. I'm fairly sure. I'm sure the third altar is the one that is the violent psychopath. That was the one that was swinging the bat around at the dad. I bet you the window episode is when the third altar came into being as well. That's when the third altar came into being. Because Mr. Robot doesn't even remember the whole window scene. So that's the reason why it was crazy with the bat and just swinging it around and busting shit up and then jumping out the window. Yeah. Maybe the goons just let him go now that Vera's dead. I don't think so. Vera was their meal ticket, man. Um, yeah, I really don't think that's going to happen. I agree. That's when the third altar appears. Survival. Yeah, Kiki. I'm fairly sure that's when it happens. Like I said, Sam Ishmael, he really does lay down these breadcrumbs for us to follow, and he keeps mentioning the window, and he keeps mentioning Elliot wasn't himself, and Mr. Robot wasn't there either. And Mr. Robot doesn't remember exactly what happened. So was Mr. Robot even talking to the third altar at this point too? We don't know, because Elliot obviously isn't talking to him. Well, we know that Mr. Robot isn't talking to him either because they both don't remember meeting Vera 2 months ago. Yeah. And yes, Darlene needs to confirm at this point. Exactly. Yeah, holy shit. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's going on. Oh my god. We still need to find out about what led him to Krista, the server room incident. Yeah, that's also another thing, Chris. I agree with you. There's so many things that need to be tied up. Uh, but the thing is, we're at the midway point, which is good. We are at the midway point. We have 6 more episodes to go because we have 13 episodes this season. Uh, I'm, I'm fairly sure they're going to wrap it up in a nice, neat bow. Not like the Man in the High Castle. I'm sorry. I finished watching the Man in the High Castle today, and I screamed at the screen. I was like, "What the fuck? What did that mean?" Unlike this one, which I'm pretty sure is going to wrap things up. I'm still probably going to have some "what the fuck" moments of what did that mean, but I'm sure there's going to be some, more coherent wrap up than what I got out of that. Darlene was kidnapped. Remember that as a child. Oh. That's right, Kiki. That's right. That's why Mr. Robot doesn't remember Darlene being his daughter, because she really isn't. She was kidnapped. Oh, that's kind of fucking weird. Wow. There's probably gonna be all kinds of revelations now that we know what happened with his dad. Man. That felt cathartic, quite honestly, to get that all out, to tell you the truth. Going through that recap, quite honestly, helps me get it out there. It was that anxiety of this episode, and just, it was very claustrophobic, this episode too. It worked fairly well. It's all set as one stage, even so far as going over the wall to the two different rooms. It only takes place in two rooms. That's it. Other than the trunk at the beginning, and the trunk at the beginning is, you know, it was still black outside and everything like that. So that could have been behind stage, if you will. Do you think it's going to have a 12 Monkeys ending? I don't think so. I don't think you're talking about the movie or the TV show, because the TV show wrapped up things very, very well. The TV show was fucking brilliant. The movie was good too. I mean, you had the loop ending, which is good. I don't think they're going to do the loop ending, but you never know. Oh my God, Ron's coffee shop. No wonder he took Ron down. Yeah, brilliant acting, writing, and directing. I agree with you, Kiki. It was this by far. Uh, I'll say this was the standout episode of so far of this season. It really was, and it was very, very intense. There's a lot of stuff going on in it, and we got a lot of information out of it, quite honestly, and it raised a whole bunch of questions as well. It's wow, that's all I can say. uh yeah, I agree with you guys. Best episode of the season. um I'm still, like I said, I'm still kind of reeling from a lot of this stuff. I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a whole bunch of new questions and theories and stuff like that in my head about this. I'm going to come and join the dark side. Darlene is still captured by the Dark Army. with Janice and Dom. What happens there? We know McGuire is going to have something to do with it, but you're welcome, Kiki. Hey, like I said, I love talking through this. This is one of my favorite shows, and I'm definitely like talking about this and getting it out there. And I like that you guys are actually positing, theories as well. Keep them coming, by the way. Put them inside the comment section. Just so you know, after episode 13, when we're done down there, if you add comments to that video, as long as you're within the continental United States, I'm going to draw a name and someone's going to win the Mr. Robot mask that's right back here. Yep, this guy right back here. And I've also got an E-Core bottle opener as well, which I'm probably going to throw in there as well for 2 lucky winners. Yeah. Gotta think this drives the plot in particular direction, and it isn't just trauma for trauma's sake. I agree with you, Ray. It's not. Sam had the ending mapped out. He says he knows where this is going. He knows where it was always going, and I want to say it was a Vanity Fair or interview with him where he talked about this curveball coming that he was going to throw in there, and he delivered. He really did. The Cutter for Life says, I just remembered when Elliot hacked himself, he found pictures of himself with his dad, but he looked happy. Was that moment even real? So much mindfuck right now. I know. Yeah. Elliot needs a good ending for sure. Before this episode, I didn't believe he would survive at the end. Yeah, I still say there's going to be time travel involved, or if anything, there is going to be a reset where there's got to be some kind of reset that happens, because also White Rose needs to have their life fixed as well, because the lover that White Rose lost, and Angela's mother, needs to not get cancer, kind of thing, from working at that company, as well as, now we found out Elliot's dad. Yeah. Reset. I don't believe it'll go sci-fi on us. I don't know, Kiki. I think it is. I think it's going to do a little reset at the end. I think we will get a little sci-fi kick in the pants there. I wouldn't put it past Sam, to tell you the truth. We've heard too much about Back to the Future, that being tied in. It's Elliot's favorite movie. We've had time travel talked about in an entire episode, and it's just too much time travel stuff that's been added to this series to not pay off on it. Anything good that comes into Elliot's life now just fills me with fear. I agree with you, Ray. It's like everything that's good in his life just turns to crap. It really does. I agree with you, Cutter. That's what I'm saying. Angela will come back as well. Or if it's all just a dream delusion. He could have overdosed, and this could be his final dream, I guess you could say, of what's happening. And that would be a fucked up ending, to find out this is all just him dying in his apartment, ODing, and that's what this all is. Or the whole Dark Army thing that we saw at the beginning of this season with him dying, and have this be what's left of it. Or if they do the reset, Tyrell will come back. Everyone will come back at this point. Tyrell's wife, all that. Jeffrey T, hey, I'm happy they didn't do a flashback during the therapy session. Also, Vera was top-notch great. Yeah, I'm very happy they didn't do a flashback during the therapy session. Wow. So, where are we at here? So, didn't Elliot basically do this entire thing for his dad, but like based off of the dad he created in his head? Also, I wonder if Angela and her mom knew about the abuse. That's a good question, Joey. Now we don't know why he's doing this. So yeah, it's Kiki says, remember his mother saying to Mr. Robot, you were supposed to protect us in the first episode of the season. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to find out what the blue glowy thing was, Pen. I really don't think we're going to find that out. I would like to, but that might just be like a nod to Quentin Tarantino or something like that with the glowing box, the glowing briefcase. Is that what I think it is? So I'm gonna let you guys go here. I've got another stream I'm doing in a little bit here at 9:15 for Watchmen. So if you like what you see here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and subscribe. If you want to know when I'm be on live again next, hit the little bell down below there. It's a 50-50 chance of actually getting notified on that. If you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see a video pop up here. It's going to be a video from the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching. It's going to pluck a video from my video library that matches that as best as possible. Up here is going to be Saturday Morning Blast Off. That's going to be there for you. I have my schedule up on suspendedfanimation.com. I also have that schedule up on my Facebook page. There's also a Facebook group page where you guys can post some stuff on there and talk amongst yourselves. And I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, and I have a Patreon page, but I don't have any tiers set as yet. I will by the end of this year, beginning of next year. And thank you to everybody that came in and went through this whole therapy session with us tonight, because god damn did I need that. Sakimaro says, one thing we need to know now is why the show started on a pedo hunt. I don't remember that. So blue glowing equals portal to reality. We don't know. Could be the protomolecule too. Who knows? And thanks, Ray. Thank you guys, like I said, for everyone who was here tonight in the chat. Thank you if you made it so far through this video. I will see you guys in a little bit at 9:15 for Watchmen. And oh, that's right, the pedophile hunt. That's right, Ron's coffee. I forgot all about that. Okay, yes, that does make a lot of more sense now at this point. Yeah, Elliot shut it down. That's right. I remember. God, there's so many things that are being brought back again to light at this point. I forgot, there's a lot of stuff out there. I forget about it sometimes. So thanks guys for bringing that up. I will see you in a little bit at 9:15. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find out that some memories are best left kept in the closet. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you in a little while here.